Families call it the knock, and it's life-changing.
We'd actually slept in, which was a rare thing for me and the kids. We're always up early and we were woken by a knock, then knock at the door. It was 2 detectives who were looking for my ex-partner. Obviously, it was very out of the ordinary. I'd never dealt with the police before, neither had he. So I just had to take the kids to school and go to work, not knowing what was going on.
This is the way most families learn their partner or parent is suspected of online child sex offences. It was the way the nightmare started for Jessica and her 3 children, who were all under 12. Her words have been spoken by an actor.
I felt dirty. That was how it made me feel. That I've been with somebody who has done those things.
And for your children?
And for my children the same. Again, especially my daughter, because that was... How do you even begin to comprehend? That was somebody who was an amazing dad, and somebody you look up to has done something like that.
The shame of the crime brought the stigma of association. Jessica and her children moved home and schools, experiencing a trauma more families are facing than ever before. New data shared with Sky News shows that every month in England and Wales there are more than 800 arrests in connection with online child sex abuse, and researchers say that 35% of those people, that's about 300 a month, have children living with them at the time of their arrest. And their experiences can be harrowing. These children's accounts, shared with Sky News, have been spoken by actors.
I got a text that some boys from school had added me into a WhatsApp group. It was about my dad. One message said, if our dad had done what your dad had done, we'd kill ourselves.
We had to move away. We had to move schools. We had to change our names. And when I went to see Daddy in prison, I wasn't allowed to sit on his knee.
I am not allowed to say his name in school because I will get attacked by my friends. Everyone says I can't love him, but I can't stop.
Their stories are hard to hear, but these children aren't defined as victims. They aren't legally entitled to things like free counselling. In fact, they get fewer automatic services than the offender, like Jessica's ex-partner.
Finding out that he got psychotherapy paid for quite some time. And me and my children were, at home suffering whilst he's done what he'd done. And, I was having to go out and... work really long hours, and even more so to be able to just afford just to be heard.
And under current laws, this isn't changing. So I'm going to read to you from the government's Victims Code, and this is important because this defines who is a victim in the eyes of local authorities and who gets things like automatic support, free counselling, for example. And it says a victim is a person who has suffered harm, including physical, mental or emotional harm or economic loss, which was directly caused by a criminal offence. So currently children of offenders aren't covered by this definition, and when we contacted the Ministry of Justice about this, they said they do have a great deal of sympathy for families of offenders, but it's charities that right now provide a wide range of freely available services.
Basic listening support to more intensive one-to-one work.
But the charities themselves say there are children being missed. NEPAC supports children of offenders, but even they admit they don't know how many may need help.
There's no database, there's no information anywhere, so we estimate how many children are affected by imprisonment per year, but we don't have that accurate figure, which is quite concerning.
Why don't we have that figure though?
There's just no statutory body that has any responsibility for collating that data. We know there are gaps in services where we do need to be offering more support, but we don't have them statistics, and there will be families and children that we are missing, that we're not reaching out to.
And what does their future then look like? Research shows 65% of boys with fathers in prison end up in the criminal justice system themselves. In an exclusive interview with Sky News, the British police lead on child protection says families of sex offenders are hidden victims and they could be legally defined as such.
That's under discussion. That's clearly a matter that comes under statute, under the Victims Code as well. I think anybody listening to this, anybody who has been subject to this, any partner or child would rightly clearly recognise the need to provide the most care, because if we don't get this right, that adverse impact on children can have a huge impact for the rest of their lives, and that is so sad. You know, almost the removal of a parent out of their house in such a dramatic and impactful way clearly requires mental health services for children, and then we will also very much focus on the children and the partners left behind, as you describe, who are the hidden victims of this.
The government says there are no plans to adapt the Victims Code to incorporate families like Jessica's, who feel invisible, vulnerable and very alone. Katerina Vitozzi, Sky News.